Every day around the world, beef, pork, chicken, and fish travel from factory to plate with the ease of modern technology. This increase in our meat consumption is impacting the planet on a far greater scope than anyone could have anticipated, affecting food and water shortages, forest depletion, pollution, and even climate change at enormous levels.
There's not a particularly high level of ecological literacy in our culture, in our society. So people don't really understand at very many levels, whether it be the producer level or whether it be the manufacturing level or government levels or consumption levels. People don't really understand the relationship between food production and ecology and environmental issues generally. So what that means is that it isn't really part of the way of thinking. So it isn't farms aren't designed with ecological concepts in mind. Government players, government actors don't design policy to enhance ecological processes. So until we get a lot better at that, we're going to have significant problems.
The world's meat production quadrupled between 1951 and 2001, with 20 billion livestock on Earth, more than triple the entire human population. There are costs to meeting this demand. Decades of research done by experts from across the globe conclude the world's current meat practices are having a devastating effect on the planet. But this information is not being readily shared.
They're trying. The researchers, the scientists, and doctors who have done the research that shows unequivocally the relationship between diet and our own health, as well as diet and the planetary health, they're trying their best, and the word is trickling out.
In 2006, the United Nations International Panel on Climate Change created a detailed report specifically outlining the damages current meat practices are causing the environment. They concluded that the livestock sector emerges as one of the top 2 or 3 most significant contributors to the most serious environmental problems at every scale, from local to global, and that the impact is so significant that it needs to be addressed with urgency. Despite the awareness of climate change continuing to grow, very little action has been taken by governments or companies to reduce the impact of animal agriculture.
So one of the most powerful groups within the agricultural area is actually the animal industries themselves. They have a long track record of intervening quite successfully in policy formation. This has been particularly visible, for example, in the setting historically of nutrition guidelines. The historians who have looked back at the records of how a lot of these nutrition guidelines have been set have found an inordinate influence from the animal industry. So clearly they have a lot of impact on the way the system operates. Partly that's because they are in very significant economic players.
That relationship between corporate North America and North American government is actually a very toxic relationship, and it is not, without getting into a long explanation of it, it's just not geared towards the health of the population. It's geared towards profit.
one of the things people don't quite realize is that even though a lot of these food companies, for example, the food retailers, look like they're enormously powerful, on another level they're extremely vulnerable because they all have very thin profit margins. And it doesn't actually take that many shoppers going into their local store and saying, how come you don't have more organic products here? Or how come you don't have this or that? This is what I want to buy, or I'm going to go shop somewhere else. It doesn't actually take that happening very often before the store manager is on the phone to head office saying, we've got a problem here. What are we going to do about this? And it's because they're completely dependent on having a high traffic through their stores in order to make any money. So consumers don't quite realize, I think, how much power they actually have to affect certain kinds of changes that then essentially will boomerang back through the system.
Even eating less meat helps the environment. So for example, if people just cut out 10% of the meat that they're currently eating, if everybody in North America did that, we could essentially wipe out world hunger and reduce global warming by a huge percentage. So every little effort, but made by everybody, will add up to big changes.
We live in a complex web of life in which all beings depend on each other and the planet for survival. But the Earth does not depend on us. Species come and go, and yet the Earth continues to survive. Will it be better off without us?